What happens after the moment of betrayal, when the silence breaks and the consequences finally begin? That's the question shaking General Hospital fans right now as Laura Wright and Chris McKenna drop cryptic hints about what's coming next for Carly. And it's not forgiveness, not redemption, and definitely not peace. It's fallout, the kind that spreads quietly at first, then destroys everything in its path. Because in Port Charles, betrayal is never the end of the story. It's the beginning of the damage. GH's Laura Wright and Chris McKenna hint at fallout from Carly's betrayal. In Port Charles, betrayal is a currency that never loses value. It reshapes relationships, redefines alliances, and leaves emotional debris that lingers long after the truth is revealed. Now, according to recent teases from Laura Wright and Chris McKenna, Carly's actions are about to trigger a ripple effect that even she may not be able to control. What starts as a personal conflict is about to expand into something much larger, something more dangerous, something irreversible. The weight of the word betrayal. In soap storytelling, betrayal is never simple, it is never isolated, and it is never clean. When Laura Wright hints at Carly's betrayal, she isn't just referring to a single action. She's pointing toward a shift in perception. Because betrayal is not only about what is done, it's about how it is received. And in Port Charles, reception is everything. One character's justification is another character's devastation. And that gap is where the fallout begins. Carly. A character defined by choice and consequence. Carly has never been a passive character. She acts. She reacts. She takes control when control is necessary. But those choices come with consequences. Some immediate, others delayed. What makes this current storyline especially significant is that Carly's decisions are no longer contained within her own orbit. They are expanding outward, affecting others, disrupting trust, rewriting expectations. And that expansion is what Laura Wright's comments seem to point toward. A shift from personal drama to systemic fallout. Chris McKenna's tease, the perspective shift. Chris McKenna's hints add another layer to the situation. His perspective suggests that the fallout from Carly's betrayal is not one-dimensional. It is not just about Carly and the people directly affected. It is about perception, how others interpret her actions, how alliances shift based on that interpretation, and how quickly trust can dissolve once doubt enters the equation. In Port Charles, perception is often more powerful than truth. And McKenna's tease implies that Carly's situation may become defined less by what she did and more by how others choose to see it. The ripple effect begins. Fallout in soap operas is never immediate. It starts quietly. A conversation that feels slightly colder, a look that lingers a second too long, a hesitation where there used to be trust. These small fractures accumulate. And before long, they become structural damage. According to the cast teases, Carly's betrayal is about to initiate exactly that kind of slow-burning breakdown. Not explosive chaos, but spreading instability. Trust, the first casualty. The first and most obvious casualty of betrayal is trust. Once broken, it rarely returns in its original form. Even if forgiveness is offered, the memory remains. And in Carly's case, that memory may become a defining factor in how others interact with her moving forward. Laura Wright's hints suggest that Carly will be forced to navigate a shifting emotional landscape. People questioning her intentions, relationships becoming uncertain, allies reconsidering their loyalty. This is not immediate rejection. It is gradual distancing, and that can be even more destabilizing. Emotional fallout versus strategic fallout. One of the most interesting aspects of this storyline is the dual nature of fallout. Emotional fallout. Hurt feelings, broken trust, personal resentment, relationship fractures. Strategic fallout, shifting alliances, power realignments, recalculated loyalties, hidden agendas, emerging. Carly's betrayal doesn't just hurt people emotionally. It also changes how they position themselves in the larger Port Charles ecosystem, and that makes the situation more complex than simple forgiveness or blame. Carly's defense versus public perception. From Carly's perspective, there may be justification. There usually is. But justification doesn't always translate into acceptance. And that gap between intent and perception is where conflict thrives. Laura Wright's comments hint that Carly may struggle with how her actions are interpreted by others. Because even if her reasons are valid to her, they may not be valid to those affected. And in Port Charles, perception often outweighs explanation. The emotional isolation factor. One of the most overlooked consequences of betrayal is isolation. Even if Carly is surrounded by people, she may begin to feel emotionally separated from them. Because trust, once damaged, creates invisible distance. Conversations become cautious. Interactions become guarded. Relationships become uncertain. And that emotional isolation can be more impactful than confrontation, because it changes the foundation of connection itself. Chris McKenna's implication. The bigger picture. McKenna's hints suggest something even more significant. Carly's betrayal may not remain contained within her immediate circle. It could influence broader storylines, affecting family dynamics, romantic relationships, long-standing alliances, future conflicts in Port Charles. This elevates the storyline from personal drama to narrative catalyst, meaning Carly's actions could become a turning point for multiple characters, not just herself. The fragility of reputation. In Port Charles, reputation is fragile. It is built over time, but can be damaged in moments. And once it is questioned, everything becomes unstable. Carly has long been a polarizing figure, respected by some, questioned by others. This betrayal may tilt that balance further, forcing characters to reevaluate who she is, what she represents, and whether she can still be trusted moving forward. That reevaluation process is where tension deepens, because nothing is certain anymore. The question of consequences. The central question emerging from these teases is not whether Carly will face consequences, but how severe those consequences will be, and whether she is prepared for them. Because fallout in Port Charles is rarely proportional, it escalates, it spreads, and it often returns in unexpected forms. Character dynamics under pressure. As fallout unfolds, character relationships will likely undergo pressure testing. Friendships may fracture, romantic bonds may weaken, family ties may be strained, and in those moments of pressure, true loyalties are revealed. Some characters may stand by Carly, others may distance themselves, and some may actively oppose her. That unpredictability is what drives long-term soap tension. Why? This storyline resonates. This arc resonates because it reflects real emotional dynamics, the complexity of trust, the difficulty of forgiveness, the gap between intention and impact, the unpredictability of perception. It's not just about what Carly did, it's about what it means afterward. And that aftermath is where the real story begins. Final thoughts. The hints from Laura Wright and Chris McKenna suggest that Carly's betrayal in General Hospital is not an endpoint, it is a catalyst, a trigger for emotional, relational, and strategic fallout that will ripple through Port Charles in ways that cannot be easily reversed. Because in this world, betrayal doesn't just end trust, it reshapes everything built on it. And Carly is about to discover just how far those ripples can reach.